I want to take a moment this morning to talk about the Senator Deeds stabbing. This is the senator from Virginia whose son stabbed him repeatedly and then went out and committed suicide. Now, a lot of people in the gun community aren't wanting to talk about this, but I think there's a very good reason why we need to talk about it, and I'll get into that later in the video. But right now, I just want to go over what happened. As those of you that are following the news know, this young man, this 24-year-old son of the senator, he was taken actually in for mental health evaluation. And not only was he taken in, he was declared a danger to himself. They held him for the 4 hours that they can legally do because they said, yes, this gentleman does have issues. He's got mental health issues, probably compounded by substance abuse issues. The problem was they can only hold someone for 4 hours unless a magistrate signs off. And a magistrate can only sign off on a 3-day hold if there's a bed available. There wasn't a bed available in the state. In the whole mental care system of the state of Virginia, this senator could not find his son a bed. Now, this is a senator. And if a senator couldn't find his son help when he needed it, what do you think it'd be like for you and me to try to do the same thing? Now, this is the same state where several years ago the Virginia Tech massacre occurred. This is a state that stood up and said, we've got to do something about this. This was a big failing, how could this happen? And a lot of people realized that the person that committed the Virginia Tech shootings was severely mentally disturbed. He needed help. He had a long history of mental illness, but he never received the help he needed. But still, several years later, seems like nothing's changed. Now, this basically tells me two things. One, the people that said that they cared so much about people and that they cared so much about what happened at Virginia Tech, they didn't really. All they cared about was pushing agendas, anti-gun agendas, etc. Because if they really cared, they would have done something about the real problem. And two, it tells me the real problem is the mental health system and that the mental health system is broken. Like I'm saying, it's been several years since the Virginia Tech shootings, and there's not been any changes made. No changes at all. No positive movement in the mental health system. Now, of course, you got some propagandists like Piers Morgan saying, well, this just points out how final the events always are when a handgun or a firearm is involved. He only just brings that up because, the only way he can get more than like a half dozen shut-ins and people that lost their remote control to actually watch his show is to talk about guns, it seems. But I was happy to see Dr. Michael Wellner quickly slap Piers Morgan down. He was on a different show on the same network, and he said people that are focusing on the gun are focusing on the wrong issue. The issue is mental health. Now, he admitted guns aren't for everyone, of course, especially not people that are suffering from mental illness compounded by drug addiction. So guns aren't for everybody. I mean, pointy sticks aren't for everybody. Hammers aren't for everybody. But he pointed out that people that were focusing on the tool were focusing on the wrong thing. They should be focusing on how this country is not dealing with people that have these issues. So why am I wanting to talk about it today? Why am I bringing it up on a gun channel? Well, even though a gun was used, but it was only used on one person, and it was a suicide, which is something that most people would be like, that doesn't deserve national attention, and let's just kind of not talk about it and hope it goes away and hope no one focuses on the gun. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but I think as responsible citizens, as the good guys we claim to be, we have an obligation to stand up every time something like this happens and say, let's deal with the real problem. Let's take care of people that need the help. Let's not just hope people don't notice a gun was involved. Let's actually deal with the actual root of the issue. I think it's times like this where we need to be on the offensive. We need to say, yeah, he used a gun to end his life. And he used a gun to end his life because you people really don't care. You really don't give a shit when it gets right down to it about these people at all. Because if you did, you'd be making positive change. It's time we start being proactive. It's time we start standing up when things don't really benefit us to do so, when it benefits the whole instead of just us. So let's start being the good guys, like I said. Let's start standing up, let's start talking, and let's start actually doing something about the problems that are really causing the violence and the deaths in this country. Let's start dealing with mental illness. Let's start dealing with drug addiction. Let's start dealing with those things in a positive way. Let's not demonize the people. Let's help them. When we start doing that, then we'll be showing that we're really the good people that we say we are. This is the richest country in the world. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to deal with this problem. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to stand up and say, hey, there's an issue here. Let's draw attention to it, even if it might look a little bad on us for some people. There's going to be some people that are going to capitalize on the fact that a firearm was used. Screw those people. Let's deal with the real issue. Let's let everyone see what the real issue is. Let it stand up, like I said, and be counted and be proactive. There's no excuse to allow this to go on. There's no excuse to allow people to be demonized, to not receive the care they need, not receive the resources they need to deal with their issues. So when I hear people say we need to actually start talking about the problems of gun violence in this country, I say, you're absolutely right. We do need to talk about the problem. We need to talk about the problems of mass violence, period. And we need to talk about the one thing that's almost always present in every case of mass violence, and that is mental health issues. Because only when people on both sides or either side stand up and do something about the actual problem, put aside our partisan differences and put aside our personal agendas and deal with the actual issue, only then can we actually claim that we're the caring, concerned people that we say we are.